landscape of college athletics has had a seismic change, and we're going to talk all about it. Welcome to Nephew and Uncle Basketball Banter. I'm Ryan Woolley, joined by my co-host and Uncle David Scholler. So, Uncle Dave, we have quite the change here when it comes to college athletics. We have this 5-and-5 new rule now with the NCAA, so athletes can now get up to 5 full seasons, replacing the current 4 seasons in 5 years. So, your 5-year window. You have a 5-year window. The 5-year clock begins at full-time college enrollment or at the start of the academic year following the student-athlete's 19th birthday, whichever comes first. Red shirts are gone. The rule eliminates red shirts, so sitting out of a year to preserve eligibility is no longer a thing. And fewer waivers, so now you have medical hardship waivers and special eligibility exceptions now taken away as well. Play every year of their 5-year window, so there's no need to save a season. So what are you to make of this with this new rule that we have?
Well, they've already had lawsuits in Colorado and every other place, so now there's 7 guys who are eligible for their 5th year. Some of them can go back if they were in the portal already. Some of them can only go back to their school if they weren't in the portal, so now they're being sued. So it's still a mess because no one can these days in sports or out of sports can ever just listen to a verdict and judges give in to some bullshit. I mean, if you're going to have a rule, you got to enforce it. And it's already being challenged in all these different courts and these judges. Some of these states like Colorado are just incredibly insane. If that's the rule, it's the rule. It has to start somewhere. And the kids from the 2022 class are the ones that get gypped. But you know what? Like I said, there's already guys. The kid from Mississippi Stores, B.J. Edwards from SMU. These are guys. B.J. Edwards already played for the Kings in Summer League, but he's probably going to be allowed to come back. Looks like he is. So we'll have to see because I don't know what you do if in some states it passes these suits and other states it doesn't. So I don't know. It's crazy. I like the 5-and-5 rule because at least there's a rule. Now can you make a transfer rule where if you're going to transfer, you got to sit a year. I don't mind you getting paid, but it should be more than a 1-year contract. If you want to transfer, you got to sit a year. Unless your coach leaves. If your coach leaves, then you could transfer right away. No questions asked. But at the same time, how are you ever going to get consistency and make players better if every time they don't get what they want, they transfer? I mean, look at Draymond Green. Draymond Green in college wasn't half as good as he is now, but he stuck it out and when he didn't play and he worked hard and made himself a Hall of Famer. But I do like the 5-and-5, but they got to enforce it.
So now we're going to have, I think, just a bunch of 5th-year guys, right? I mean, that's what's going to happen. I mean, so you have a situation. Texas Tech announced that former All-Big 12 first-teamer Darian Williams, who entered the 2026 NBA draft and was not selected, he'll be returning following a 1-year stint at NC State. Florida's Denzel Aberdeen could be a major addition to the Gators roster, and former UCLA star Donovan Dent is rumored additional.
Donovan Dent is a stud. Donovan Dent is a stud. Played for Patino in New Mexico. He is a stud. Donovan Dent, if he has to go back, the rumor is he has to go back to UCLA, which Mick Cronin would be thrilled with. But Donovan Dent is a beast.
But I think Dan Hurley had an excellent quote. He's like, let's unleash 80 players into the sport in the first week of August. I mean, we can't go on like this. It's definitely will be an influx of players like that now that are a lot of them are accomplished, so they're going to be picked up right away.
Don't forget, they got the roster caps now, too. So you got the guy who's your 15th guy who might not be making any money, who's just a kid that loves playing basketball.
Yeah,
he's out.
He's bumped out now, right?
Yeah, he's out. So, but the bad news is he's out, and it's the middle of August. So now what do you do? So it's a situation where, I mean, the ripple effects are going to be enormous. We'll have to see how it's ruled on. But I just feel like and Dan Hurley's right about this. The roster is changing. You know, people will look at him and go, what does he care? He doesn't have any pressure because he's already won. But Dan Hurley puts more pressure on himself than anybody else ever could. That's why he is like that. But at the same time, I applaud the rule, but you must enforce it. And that's we're in a whole world now where nobody enforces any rules.
I haven't read with this. How does it apply to prep schools? What's going to go on with that if guys want to do a year of prep school?
It's going to count as a year. It's going to count. As soon as you hit 19 at 1st September, it's going to count.
So I guess in a way it is honestly a good ruling then because you're not going to have guys in their late 20s then having eligibility.
It's what it used to be. The Division I rule was the minute after you graduated high school, your clock started for 5 years. You had 5 years to get 4 in. That was the Division I rule. Division II was 5 years to get 5. No, I think it was 6 years to get 5. In D3, there was no limit. That's the old rule. That's the old standard, and it's changed. And now it's the got to no rule, and now it's gone to 5 for 5, which I get. But if you're going to let a guy play 5 years, I don't want to hear about this guy's the leading scorer. Don't tell me that, the fucking point guard from Purdue is the greatest assist man of all time. You can't shine Bob Hurley's shoes, but it's a story for another day. But it's all these guys got to break every record in the book because they play more games.
Right,
I mean, I
that's
love
going to
the
happen.
kid.
You're going to get a whole full extra year now.
Yeah, I mean, I love the kid from Purdue, but Jesus, he's not Bob Hurley as a point guard. It's not even close.
In some ways, it's like a trade-off, right? I mean, I'm sure there'll be maybe a downside to this in some regard, but the backlash of guys in their late 20s still in college athletics is just a joke. You cannot have that. Coach Cal, his quote of, we're going to have guys in their 30s here married with their 2 kids in the stands as a college athlete.
Plus, it's going to have a ripple effect on the money because these colleges are hemorrhaging money. There's about 15 colleges. It's going to turn into college. What college happened to college football? College football reached a point where only about 30 schools are making a profit. And it's still been like that. But now you're going to turn basketball into the same thing. And so if you're going to have that situation, you're basically going to get about 40 to 50 teams that can afford to do this. And everybody else is going to be on the outside looking in.
Luke Murray now with Boston College. To talk about a bad week that they had. So early last week, there was information that came out that Luke Murray was responsible for not retaining 2 of the Boston College radio announcers for the men's program for their basketball team. And it was a story that came out on a website called Awful Announcing. They basically said about Coach Murray that he was solely responsible for them not having their jobs retained, and that he told the athletic director he didn't want anybody from the previous regime, and he didn't want anyone with the travel party that was part of a losing culture. I mean, there were some quotes in this that were just totally insane, and I was reading this thinking, if this is true, then Luke Murray is the biggest micromanager and fascist lunatic to ever step on a college court.
And an asshole.
Yeah, so I'm reading this. I'm glad we did not cover this story right away when it happened, because a few days later it comes out that really what happened was these guys' contracts weren't renewed, and it just was bad timing for Luke Murray that he was stepping in right as these guys' contracts weren't being renewed. So they pushed the blame to him, and it's maybe a situation right here where these guys were looking for their TMZ moment, and they're just saying a bunch of nonsense, and it's really none of it's true. But they were saying that they wanted to have a meeting with Coach Murray, and he was refusing. What do you make of this story? Do you think it's just 2 guys that are jilted at the altar, they feel like, and they're now just trying to smear?
Both to be true. I think he might not want them, but also their contracts are up, so he gets a pass. But if he's, from what I've heard, it sounds like he could be the kind of guy that would be like that, which would mean that you're a super asshole, because anybody who takes over a job, and I've done it many times, when you walk in the door, you don't swing the hammer and crush everything that's there. Not everything that's there is bad. You got to keep the still things that are good. So when you take over, you want to make changes, but if you're going to make every change, it won't work. Trust me, I've been very successful at taking places that were dog shit and making them good and respectable. I've done it multiple times, more than almost anybody on the planet. So bottom line is, if you're going to do that and you come in and you slam doors and you beat people over the head, they're going to punch back after a while. And so you hope for his sake, starting out, hearing about his dad over the years being a little bit of a jackass, I mean, it might be part of who he is. I mean, but the BC fans and the UConn fans on Twitter were just so defensive of the guy. I'm like, listen, yeah, he's drawing up great sets, but that 2024 UConn team, team couldn't lose. 2025, another great team. Let's be honest, Dan Hurley's the one that makes that thing go.
That was the one reason I wanted to wait on it. I'm like, this definitely could be a smear campaign. I did think that right away, but I'm also thinking, all right, this guy's a part of UConn's basketball culture, and this guy might be thinking that he's has a bigger role in it than he really does. And also, your father's a celebrity, so you know how those people a lot of times act. So it wasn't beyond the realm of possibility. I thought this guy could be doing this.
Plus, what he's going to learn, and I can't believe he would know this being around Dan Hurley. I'm sure Dan Hurley talked to him about this, but what he's going to learn is moving 3 feet over to the left on the bench or the right, depending on which way you're sitting on your bench, is the biggest 3 feet in the world. It's a hell of a lot more than a yard. And the other thing is, you're in the ACC now. You're not in the Big East where there's 5 or 6 wins built in there. So he's going to go in the ACC, and maybe he'll be able to compete with Georgia Tech this year, who's not had a good year in recruiting. But the rest of that league, I mean, right, Notre Dame's not spending any money, but he will find out that it's great to be rah-rah and beat UMass Lowell a couple of times and maybe, regular UMass. Then all of a sudden you're about 0-5 in the ACC, and all of a sudden the rah-rah goes away, especially with today's kid, like we just talked about, where they just run. So bottom line is, you think you would know that as a person. We could sit here and go chapter and verse in any sport just in the last 20 years and talk about great assistants who, when they got to the pros, didn't have the same talent that their great schemes I'm sure the guy did run great offensive sets, very creative, no doubt about it. You got to give him his due, but again, you don't want to believe your own horse shit. I said this to you a million times in your life as a coach. You believe all your own horse shit, and you know what? You still got to have some players, obviously. And if BC's not going to put any money in, he's going to get his ass kicked, and I don't care who it is.
Well, I was thinking too when this all came out, and let's say it's true that he was like, oh, I don't want anybody in the travel party. It's a part of the losing culture. Let's just entertain that for a moment. Earl Grant's record at Boston College was 72-92. I mean,
Yes.
there's a decent chance after 5 years,
Yeah.
if he makes it that long, your record could be very similar to that of your head.
Earl Grant had 2 good years there too.
He definitely could wind up with a very similar record. Like you said, Boston College, it just seems like it's an impossible place to win at, especially these days.
And let me tell you this, as a person in the Northeast who follows the ACC more than anybody, been doing it since 1980.
Even Boston College, when they were in the Big East, you were following BC basketball always.
Yes, Earl Grant did an excellent job there. They did not win. I will give you that. And this is a win-lose business. We know that. But some schools aren't aware of what they are in the mirror. They think they're one thing, but they're really another. Boston College played hard every night. They had 2 good years. I think 3 bad ones under Earl. I think he was there 5 years, but they're there every night. I'll watch every ACC game I can get my hands on. And these days you can get your hands on all of them. And they were good. They fought. They were in a league where Duke the last 3 or 4 years has lost 2 or 3 games a year. Yeah, it's
you could certainly do worse than what he did at Boston College. You could do worse than 72-92.
Yeah. And Earl's been a successful coach other places, Winthrop being one of them. So the place I used to work at. So Earl's an excellent coach. I'm hoping that he resurfaces. I think he will. I think people know how tough a situation BC is. BC is a Notre Dame situation where the academic piece is difficult, but also the resource piece is difficult. Also, you're in a town with the Boston Celtics and a ton of pro sports teams, the Bruins. That is not an easy sell to get someone to go to BC to watch a game. I would much rather go to BC and watch a game. It's a beautiful gym. I've been in there. But at the same time, it is not an easy sell. You're in a pro-dominated sports town. You're in a town that has no patience for losing. And, you got
other schools too. You got UMass there. You got Boston University. It's very competitive.
Yeah, it's tough. You got Harvard across the river. It's a tough spot. Earl Grant will resurface, and the school that hires him is getting a gem.
He's an assistant at Tennessee. He got hired there.
Right. So he has to take that job at BC because from Winthrop, he got to take that job. But he knew going in there this was going to be rough. And that's why you get guaranteed money, and that's why you understand, and you hold and Earl Grant carried himself as a A1 professional, even in the struggles late last season when it was obvious that they were going to move on from him. And they did the right thing. They went and got a guy from the New England area. But at the same time, you can't believe your own horse crap unless you're going to spend like UConn. I'm sure he'll do a great job running his half-court sets. But if you don't have the right point guard that can keep the heat off your half-court sets, your point guard's going to get pushed out, and your elongated passes to the wing will get stolen. I don't give a crap who you have and what you run. If you don't have a good point guard, your stuff's not going to work.
We'll see if Luke Murray can turn around. Boston College has not won an NCAA tournament game since 2007.
That's correct. And
the Golden Eagles are definitely desperate for a winner.
Yeah, but you know what's funny? But the last time they were good, they had good role players in the NBA. They didn't have stars. They had guys like Dudley, guys who were just good players. And Al Skinner and those guys did a good job. But they pushed out those guys.
But Al Skinner, you realize now he might have been God incarnate on the sidelines, honestly.
They said he was playing boring basketball, running the flex.
Right, well.
He ran the flex in that league because he had to.
Well, that's like what you talked about, too, with Tony Bennett in Virginia. He won that way because that's the only way he could win there.
Right. He could not walk in and stand there and throw haymakers with North Carolina. At the time he walks in the door, it's like 2010. He's walking in the door. Carolina won in 2009.
And Duke just won the year before.
Right. Yeah, so he's walking in the door there, and they're throwing haymakers. You can't stand there and throw haymakers. It's not going to work. The job he did at Virginia is one of the best 10 jobs I've ever seen in my life as far as with the circumstance and the difficulty of the conference. So we'll see. Maybe Luke will do that. Like I said, I'm sure he's got a great mind, but it's a lot more than just your crap on paper. I mean, right now, this time of year, I'm going over all kinds of stuff I want to put in and try, and I tried a lot over the summer and the spring, and I'll try a lot in the fall. But it's everything's theory until your opponent gets on the floor and tries to rip your head off.
It was definitely peculiar, this story, though, because usually those type of employees, when they're part of a program, they're going to be homers typically for the coach because
Oh, yeah.
they want direct access to you. They want to be able to talk to you before the game or after the game. The fact that a coach would come in there and just totally dismiss guys like that, I just find that hard to believe. Now, you could have a
Yeah,
grade A jackass, like you said. There's no question those are guys are out there, but he's a high
sure.
profile name and coach coming from UConn. You're also Bill Murray's
Excellent,
son.
excellent offensive mind.
This is one of the worst stories I've ever heard, if this is true, this whole thing.
Well, it's funny because, like I've said before, I mean, maybe his dad can get some of his Hollywood buddies to make some NIL money. Maybe that's about part of the deal. But the bottom line is, you got to spend a little bit to keep up. I mean, Duke's roster is probably close to 25 million. SMU's, I think, spending 10, I heard, and like Virginia's spending 15. They retain guys. Carolina spend a lot of money. I mean, if they're going to go spend 5 million, it's not going to work. But don't forget, there's a lot of bad gambling going on here because you don't know these guys and you're paying them off of what they did playing for someone else in a totally different system, and most times at a totally different level, a lower level. So you're guessing. You don't know anything about their work ethic. Yeah, you can talk to a guy on the phone, but how honest is a guy on the phone going to be when you're taking his best kid?
Right.
So you tell me the guy from UMass Lowell is like, yeah, you can take my best guy. He's averaged 20 a game for 3 years. You can have him. I'll tell you all about him. He's not going to help you.
No.
I mean,
No.
so now this guy's got to go into the ACC. Is that going to work? Well, we'll find out. You're going to have to guess right. Last year, Virginia guessed well. They spent wisely. Obviously, Bill Belichick at Carolina did not spend wisely. So you just don't know what these people are.
Yeah, I think what you just
on.
said right there, it's the right spending. It's not just who spends the most.
And how do you really know? And that's why I'd rather spend with retention on the guys I like. So if one of my guys was only playing 8 minutes a game last year, but you can see there's something there and there's a fire there, and he's no problem off the court, I'll up the ante and try to keep him because I know what I have.
Yeah, he's already in your system as well.
Yeah, listen, you know what you have. That is so comforting as a coach to know that I have people that will work hard. So it's different. The good news is every 4 years these teams get to travel internationally. SMU's in Italy right now, for example. As every Stony Brook went to Ireland way back. But you get those extra games, and that's invaluable. But at the same time, I think Luke definitely has the coaching acumen to do it. But Jesus, I mean, I hope the story's not true for his sake, because those people can keep you in your job when you struggle.
Absolutely.
Because how you treat the secretary in the building or the announcers or anybody else is very important when you're in a position of leadership. I do it every day in the high school where I work. Secretaries get treated better than everybody else in my book because they run the place.
Nope. I remember, like you, with all the gyms I used to go to, with you as the high school coach, you befriend the janitor and things like that. All of a sudden, it just makes your life that much easier when you have good relationships with those people.
Yep. You thank them at the end of the season. You get them a gift. You thank them. You take care of business. Take care of Big Jim. God rest his soul. Rick Holmes, rest his soul. All those guys. You got to take care of those guys. If you don't, you're crazy. They make your life easier. Right now, I have James Sanders does everything for us. He's the man. So we always make a donation and buy them lunch and stuff. And one day, and we try to take care of them because they make your life easier. Everything's set up. They're gentlemen. They do the right thing.
I will say, I think Boston College is certainly going to be on the radar for a lot of people because of all the success that they had at UConn with him there. Now, obviously, Dan Hurley is the guy. No one's thinking about Luke Murray in comparison to him. But when you come from a winning program like that and your last name is Murray and you're related to Bill Murray, now all of a sudden it's a different type of pressure that's on him.
The key is the non-league schedule. The ACC right now, Georgia Tech, Notre Dame, probably going to struggle a little bit. Stanford lost the stud guard. Cal lost some good players. So you got to make your hay there with those 4 teams. Everybody else has seemed to have improved. If you can make your hay with those 4 teams, you might have a shot. The bad news is that you got to make sure you schedule wisely in the non-league, and you do need some major conference wins in the non-league. So what you have to do, obviously, there's probably an ACC, SEC challenge and whatnot. You have to find those parallel teams. Like they need to go play the bottom of the Big Ten because you're in the bottom of the ACC right now. There's nothing wrong with that. You can't help that. But you got to go find the bottom of the SEC, the bottom of the Big 12, and try to play these people and see where you're at. And then go, try to get the Pac-12 is back now, which is awesome. I'm so glad the Pac-12 is back. Go get someone from the Big East. Try to play someone that you're familiar with from UConn. I'm sure he's got some friendships there. Hopefully, he didn't burn them while they were beating everybody by 50. But go play somebody. I mean, I'm sure they'll play UConn. Don't go play St. John's. He's going to beat the pants off you. Penn State announced they're not spending any money in the Big Ten for basketball. Go play Penn State.
Yeah, it's just a big name that's on the same level as you, basically.
Yeah, BC's had great basketball in the past, but the days of Michael Adams are long gone, and they need to get back to.
It's a beautiful gym and a beautiful campus, so
Oh,
it's not a hard sell, right? You could be
my
there all
favorite
day.
campus. Gun to my head, I would love to see that place get turned around one day, maybe by your cousin and my son. Maybe you'll go over there as an AD and turn that freaking thing around. Because that city is, that city. You went
Oh,
to
of
Emerson.
course.
Still my favorite city on the planet. So I've only been there like 50 times.
And with the name ID that he brings and coming from a winning program like UConn, maybe that can help them in recruiting.
Yes, I would love to see BC become relevant. The football stadium needs a little more seats, but they had some great years in football. I'd love to see them. They got O'Brien coaching. I'd love to see them get more relevant in those two big sports. They're great in hockey and girls lacrosse and baseball. They had an excellent year, but we need them to get good in football and basketball because the Northeast has a little bit of a gap right now besides UConn and St. John's. We need Syracuse to get back on the map. We need BC to get back on the map. We need all these guys to get good again.
This is an interview from about a year ago, but the recent videos surfaced of Joe Mazulla, Uncle Dave, doing UFC fighting, and he looks like he certainly could be a champion.
This is a very committed individual. As mentally, he's very sharp. This is a man who's very focused. This is a man who believes in his convictions. This guy is no joke as a brain. He is.
Yes.
He has a different brain. Socially, he's a little off, but then again, most geniuses are. He is. I was reading about this myself. This is a guy that does not screw around in his life. He is laser focused.
Right. He's the kind of guy you want as your head coach, honestly.
Right. I don't agree with his style, but I know that he believes in his style.
Especially after the Udoka situation. I think they went the opposite. They just went someone, like you said, who's just totally... Not that Udoka is not a great coach or can't be focused. I think he just got caught in a bad predicament. This interview, though, I want to talk about. I bring it up because of the workout video with Joe Mazulla that came up. What do you think of the prospect of what he talked about in this interview?
Been kicking around some proposed rule changes in the league.
I love this.
What do you got? You have some proposals?
Come on. Yeah, like basketball is one of the only sports that doesn't have a power play. And I think soccer just put in the blue card where a guy has to go off and it's 10 on 9. And so, like, we should have a power play where, like, because let's say you get a technical or let's say you get a take foul, you get the one shot, but you're not really rewarded for that because if you miss it, you don't get the reward for the take foul. You know what I mean? So there should be like a power play where on a take foul, on a technical, you have to play 5-on-4 for 5 seconds or 3 passes.
Or charge. Or what about for an entire possession? What if for the entire possession it's 5-on-4?
Yeah. I mean, that might be a little extreme, but I think we should institute power plays where instead of taking the ball out on the side, you commit a foul, the guy goes to the other side of half court, and he can't leave the half court circle until like 3 seconds.
Oh, I love this.
The biggest thing that we rob people of from an entertainment standpoint is you can't fight anymore. We should just bring back like fighting.
I mean, I'm not against that. I'm not against those days in the NBA.
What's more, I mean, you want to talk about robbing the league of entertainment. What's more entertaining than a little scuffle?
You have a situation, I don't like this part of it, where he talked about if you have a technical foul or a take foul, you have like a 5-second power play in the NBA where you have 5-on-4, where like you have it in hockey.
Yeah, I don't like that rule. I don't like that rule. I as far as I'll go, I don't like the new free throw experiment in the summer.
The challenge rule that they added in the NBA, I do like a lot. I like that quite a bit.
Me too. I do like that. I would like to see them. I do like the 3-minute rule where if you don't use that extra timeout, you lose it. I don't like this free throw thing. I wish they would go back to the bonus of being 3 to make 2. Before you were born, it used to be 3 to make 2. So if you were in the bonus in the quarter, they had 3 chances to make 2 free throws. That was the benefit of getting into the bonus. So then the 6-team foul at the 4-minute mark, I got 3 chances to make 2 free throws, which I liked. But that's just me, because that was the reward for getting in the bonus. I don't really like the taking the guy off the court thing. I'm never for that. I mean, he's just being creative. I don't think the game is in that bad a place. I think the only thing the game needs to manage right now is the tanking thing. You have to find a way to manage that. Other than that, I think the game is
we talked about that a couple months ago, actually. I think with the new rule that Adam Silver implemented, and I think that'll help a great deal. I think it's completely shrank away. Like basically, if you're a bottom 4 team, you have not a better chance of it than the number 1 team. That takes away the tanking element.
Yeah, I like that.
But also in this interview, Coach Mazulla talked about how perhaps in like you have in the other sports, like you have in the NHL and the MLB, you have fights every once in a while that break out, and that's good for the game. I will say, though, in defense of someone who was like David Stern, who completely wanted to eliminate all types of that, because the fans are right on top of the court, and they're
Yes, they are.
It's not that way in the NHL and the MLB. The fans
No.
they're not at risk of having their head
Malice
caved
at the
in.
Palace,
Malice in the Palace, right, with Steven Jackson, Rasheed Wallace in the fourth row. I'm not saying I love a good fight. We all do, right? I like watching boxing and UFC. But in basketball, I think it's unique because of the arenas and everything with the fans right next to the players practically. I don't think you could have that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's already they're landing in fans' laps, which is dangerous for the players, their ankles and everything else. But you're right. I don't want to encourage the fighting. I would say that I would be a little more tolerant. Like you watch the highlights of Lane B and Bird punching each other in the face. They didn't get suspended a game, and I didn't think they should have either.
Right.
It was two guys entangled. If one guy cheap shots another guy, yeah, I'll talk about a suspension. But if two guys are throwing haymakers at each other, I'm not suspending either one of them for a game. I'll take them out for that game, but I'm not suspending them because you know what? They're both doing it.
Yeah, like when you have the Kurt Rambis and Kevin McHale play, like there was a big scuffle in that both benches basically.
Remember it well. Yeah, remember it well. But you know what? We didn't want anybody to be suspended. We want to play the best players.
I agree with you.
Tomjanovich got popped in the face by Kermit Washington way back. Obviously, Kermit deserves to be suspended. He just blindsided him. That's different. If two guys are going at it, I don't want them to be suspended.
You can loosen the reins, I think, a little bit on this, but you have to be very careful with how much you do that because you don't want to have another situation where it's a Malice in the Palace event because that definitely was a horrible look for the NBA at that time. Definitely,
it was such BS though. If you're sitting at the table and that's what Ron Artest was doing, and they start throwing crap at you, the
fans have responsibility too. Now it's not just the players.
They were the ones who were responsible. Ron Artest sat at that table for a good 10 seconds, nice and calm, waiting, and then somebody hits him in the face with a piece of ice. I think it was.
He threw a cup at him that was filled with water.
Why? Why are you throwing it at Ron Artest? You know what Ron Artest is from a tough neighborhood. You go in there and you throw that thing at him, he's going to come kick your ass.
Right.
And he's the guy to do it too. Ron Artest is not the guy to mess with.
Have to talk now about Kevin Durant.
Oh,
have you seen any athlete in the history of athletics as accomplished as him, but so thin-skinned? The situation that just came up with him now comparing his going to the Warriors with LeBron with the 76ers, and I'm not someone to cape up for LeBron, but it's completely different. At that time, the Warriors came off the best regular season in the history of the NBA, and the year before won a championship. LeBron doing this at 41 is not at all the same. That Warriors team was one of the best teams ever. The LeBron James 76ers team is not one of the best teams ever. That's not the case. So what do you make of this now? And he also talks about his former teammates here. He talks about how Klay Thompson was never
Klay Thompson. Oh
he says Klay Thompson was never an MVP candidate. And he makes it seem like scoring 22 a game is nothing. Let's not forget, Klay Thompson, right now, no one's going to say that. But back in the day, Klay Thompson, you want to talk about two-way players, was one of the best in the NBA. He was one of the best defenders.
One of the three guys that guarded LeBron on that team.
Right.
That's
He's one of the best defenders in the NBA, period, at that time. He's also a guy who was defending Kyrie Irving pretty damn good at that time as well.
Yeah, Klay was unbelievable. He definitely belongs in it. He's better than Reggie Miller was. People get carried away with Reggie. Reggie did one thing, shoot jump shots, put his leg out. Never played defense, never rebounded. Klay did all that.
And Draymond Green, who at that time, too, was an excellent player. He had 14 points per game, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists, and he's making it seem like he's just an afterthought. And obviously, Steph Curry, we know at that time, was already one of the best players of all time. But I don't like him bringing up his former Warrior days and everything and trying to still defend this. He should have said, Kevin Durant, when he went to the Warriors and he did what he did, that, hey, I wanted to join a winning organization and I wanted to be a part of a championship culture and get a championship so that way nobody could say you never won a ring. And leave it at that. Why does he keep trying to have to defend himself, this guy? If you're Kevin Durant, why are you getting into scuffles with people online?
Guy. And like what I've said to you, if you could give me my best 12 guys ever, I'd put him on my team if he didn't have to be the leader. I'd put him in my top 12. But if you want me to get the top 12 and include that he has to be a leader, he's not my top 12 all time. If I could just put him out there with Mike, Kobe, Magic, and Bird, and he would just tell him, listen, don't say a word. I just want you to play. He'd be perfect. But if you want him to make decisions and be a leader, I don't want him. Because you see what he does.
Right.
Why is he commenting on this? First of all, what is this thing about ring chase? What is LeBron supposed to say? I want to go to the Pelicans.
Right.
Exactly. You know me. I'm not a LeBron fan. LeBron did the right thing here. I was hoping he'd go to the Spurs and play power forward. But then they did, and they would blame him for that. This is an interesting thing is he gets to play with Brown, Maxey, and Edgecombe, which I like. But at the same time, like, what do you want LeBron to do? It just drives me freaking insane that people worry about crap like that. It just drives me nuts.
And he talked about how they met 3 times in the finals and he won 2. And he tried to also say that Cavaliers at that time were just as good as the Warriors. Stop it. The Warriors were head and shoulders above Cleveland. They had no chance in those series.
The Warrior depth was ridiculous. You got Livingston and Iguodala off the bench. Mo Spates. I mean, like Barbosa. I mean, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You know, good.
Festus Ezeli, JaVale McGee.
Livingston's the first pick in the freaking draft is like a freaking teenager. You know how talented that son of a bitch is? And then you got like big guys off the bench. I mean, good God. Mo Spates could play. I mean, Iggy could play. I mean, good Lord.
All these years later, we're still doing this? I don't get it.
But what is he bringing it up for? What is it his business where LeBron goes? Just say, hey, good luck. Now you're going to have the pressure of winning with that team. But he's not, because this team is not whole right now. So that's the thing. But we have to see what they do. Could they win a championship?
Yeah.
I think they could get through the East. They're going to have to pick up another big body somewhere because the big fella's not reliable. But the big fella's going to give you his first 50 games. He's going to give you everything he has probably. And after that, he'll get bored and go tank it in the middle of January somewhere.
I don't even compare, though, LeBron going to the Heat, even like Kevin Durant with the Warriors, because at that time, the Heat, it was not a set team. No one knew what that was going to be. They had Dwayne Wade, but you added him and Chris Bosh together.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant already joined a all-time great team at that time. They didn't need him. Oh, yeah. Let's be honest here. I know you'll agree with this, that the 2 years that they won championships with him, even without Kevin Durant, they're winning one of those years at least. At that time, the Warriors, for sure. I think they would win at least
one. A healthy Curry, they win, yeah.
If they don't have him, they at least win a championship one of those years with that same team. If you have Harrison Barnes instead of Kevin Durant, you would have still won a championship, I think, if you were them at that time.
Like I would say, though, that with Durant, it made it easy because nobody could guard Durant. LeBron can't guard Durant either, but then again, Durant can't guard LeBron either.
No, because Kevin Durant's in his prime at that time, too, as well.
Right. And he just took him to the elbow and just abused him.
Right. You can't help off of him because you got prime Steph and Clay, too, so there's good luck with that.
The bottom line is KD made it look easy in that series, and he just showed that LeBron can't cover him, which is fine. But at the same time, like that Warrior, those 2 years with those Warrior teams, those are two of the best. Those are 2 of the best teams of all time. They're better than the Warrior team that won 73 games by far.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely, yeah.
KD is just a different insurance policy. But again, it's the depth.
That Warrior team, those 2 years they have Kevin Durant, I mean, you can make the argument that's maybe the most talented team ever, truthfully, from top to bottom.
Yeah, they're definitely up there. That quality of depth is definitely a discussion. The length of depth we talked about was maybe this year's 3 teams, those 2 teams that we had with OKC and the Knicks, that much depth. But as far as quality of depth, I mean, that Warrior team, the 83 Sixers, the 85 Lakers, and that Warrior team's depth is just filthy. 84 Celtics. Everybody talks about the 86 Celtics. 84 Celtics are better. But, people talk about whatever they're going to talk about. But the quality of depth of those Warrior teams is just, as a coach, you just don't even know what the hell to say. I mean, good God. I mean, you look down the bench and who are you putting in now? It's like, oh my God, like the Lakers could put in Kurt Rambis. I mean, like, what the hell? You got AC Green, you got Kurt Rambis, Byron Scott. I mean, Jesus, Michael Cooper coming off the freaking bench, one of the best defenders who ever lived. I mean, good God. I mean, just Michael Thompson. I mean, good God, these teams with the depth, it's just filthy.
Yeah, Bob Myers at that time, he was like the Sam Presti of right now. He was absolutely incredible.
And he's getting it done where he is now. You watch.
So you add a guy like Zaza Pachulia at that time, too. Oh. David West was on that team, too.
David West is a beast. Oh, my God.
Yeah, Kevon Looney. Even Patrick McCaw was not a bad player for them.
McCaw was tough, man. He wore the high shorts, but he was tough.
And then you also had a guy who was a tough player who was solid his whole career in Matt Barnes also. And Andre Iguodala, one of your favorites, he was also.
I'll tell you, he's on my first. If I'm making an NBA team, you know me. He's one of my 4 defenders I have on my team. I just go, listen, we got to shut the water off tonight. You take him. We got him. I got Michael Cooper. I got Chris Bosh, and I got like Tayson Prince. And we'll shut the water off on you. And maybe Scottie Pippen. I have a 5th guy, and I'll get 7 studs, and I'll take those 5, and we're just going to shut your water off. I don't give a shit who gets hot for you. I'm going to shut it off. I'm going to go, all right, we're going to try Iggy tonight. Scottie, if it doesn't work for Iggy, you got him next. We're just going to shut it off. I'll take stud 7, and I'll take those 5, and that's my best team of all time. I'll get the right 7. I'm not losing.
But with Kevin Durant, though, to your point that you made earlier, I think a large part of him going to the Warriors, too, was because he did not want to have that leadership role that he had with the Thunder. I think he thought that was a very stressful situation. I think he wanted to get away from that. That's why he went there. And at that time, if he would have went to, let's say, a Boston Celtics team at that time, it would have still kind of had that feel for him where he was the number one guy and he had to be the leader. I don't think he enjoys that role, Kevin Durant. So when we rank players all time, for what it's worth, I definitely, that knocks him down a little bit in my eyes, because when you look at the all-time great players, what are those guys as well? All-time great leaders as well. Larry Bird, Isaiah Thomas, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan. That is a deciding factor, I think, when you're talking about all-time players, is that leadership component with those guys.
Right, and that's when we talk about all-time greats, the problem with all the social media today is that they think it's a criticism, but when you're trying to say someone's the greatest player of all time,
it's the whole package.
You do have to split hairs. You do have to split hairs, and a little wart has to be a minus. It's not a minus on their overall approach or quality of play. But if you're going to rank someone as the best ever, now we got a nitpick, because I guess he's not a leader. He never has been. He left a team that blew a 3-1 lead
to a team that beat him.
Yep, and he left and he went to them. That's a bad look. I'm glad he did it. I was rooting for the Warriors. I'm glad he did it. But at the same time, those 2 years in the NBA playoffs were quite boring because they were that good.
Yep, they were. They were head and shoulders above.
I hate to say it.
Yeah,
they're winning in 2019. They don't get hurt.
That move, we never seen a guy that talented join a team that was already that talented. That was never. It never saw
it's
that.
It's never happened before. It's never been like that before. And you have to I give him his credit for playing so well in those two finals. If he went out there and was average in those two finals, he did something similar to what Tatum did in those finals, where he wasn't the best player, then I'd really give him some grief. But he was dominant in those two games, and they had nobody for him. Nobody.
For people to compare this to LeBron with Miami, I mean, look at that Heat team that first year. That Warriors team would have dusted that Heat team.
Yeah, that Heat team had some holes. That Heat team had some big holes. I mean, Birdman's nice, but he's not.
Well, they didn't even add him till the following year. At that time, It was Isaiah Ilgauskas, Eric Dampier. Joel Anthony. They didn't add guys like Ray Allen and Chris Anderson till the following year. Shane Battier was also another. That's when that Heat team really was one of the best ever, when they had that second and third year with LeBron. I thought that was all-time teams at that point.
Yeah, because you got Chalmers and you don't have a great big guy. There are some holes there. That's why I always say to people, the Bulls teams aren't the best ever either, especially the first three, because they're weak at the point.
Point guard and center are their two weakest positions.
Weak in the hole. I would say that the second three, they make up for it because you have Kukoc and Rodman out there together. You got Scotty, Mike, and Ron Harper. That is the longest freaking team I've ever seen in my life as far as defensive passing lane. Kukoc is not a great on-ball defender, but he does anticipate. He had a really magnificent basketball IQ. The length on those teams in the passing lane was the difference.
That's incredible.
That's where they beat the. That's why they beat the Jazz twice. If you watch some of those turnovers at the end of those games, it's passing lane stuff. But at the same time, those teams were much better than those first three, because even though they were weaker, Ron Harper was a serviceable point guard, because Ron Harper could go get 20, as we saw early in his career.
I tell you what, Junior can certainly play, no?
Oh, my goodness. Yes. Again, we talk about this all the time. NBA players' sons have the best footwork.
They do.
His footwork is filthy. Boozer's footwork is some of the best footwork I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like this. Guy fits through gaps. I don't know where the hell the gap is, and he gets through it. I'm like, his dad just must have crushed him on the footwork. Brunson's footwork, obviously, from dad. I mean, just their feet. I mean, it's just a different level of footwork.
Right.
And again,
a guy like Kobe Bryant, he also was kind of like that.
Yeah, well, his dad, Jelly Bean, played in Italy forever. But I just think it's such an advantage, not only how to handle your business, but just, the footwork and the approach to the game, the mental aspect, the mental toughness. I mean, you watch. Cam Boozer is going to go out and just have an amazing career, and no one's going to say nothing. He's going to get you probably 23 and 11 in his best years in the league. He'll have like 5 or 6 of those. Be a Hall of Famer, and maybe he'll win, maybe he won't, but you're never going to hear peep from him. He's just going to be a stud. And now his highs might not be the same highs as somebody else's, but I'm just telling you right now, it's going to be 23 and 11 in his prime. For his career, it's probably going to be 19 or 20 and 10 or a 9, because in his back years, his stats will go down.
A career he could have is like you said, a quiet, really great career. A guy like LaMarcus Aldridge or Zach Randolph, guys who just killed it. But like you said, they're just sometimes forgotten about.
Yeah, because this world, no sport is valued more by rings than basketball. So, because there's only 5 guys on the court and they're so visible. They're not wearing a helmet. They don't have a hat on. It's everybody sees you. It's such a visible sport. And so the bottom line is it's rings. Basketball gets more ring crazy than any other sport, and it's just totally crazy. No other sport do people get blamed for not winning rings. Basketball, they get blamed more than any other sport. I mean, baseball maybe a little bit, but football a little bit.
Because you know why in basketball you play both ends of the floor. You never come off. That's why.
Yeah, Charles Barkley's on both ends of the floor. Dan Marino is not.
Yep.
And in baseball, it's an individual sport played on a team of 25 guys. Hockey, obviously, you can play both, but again, you're not on the floor the whole time. You should have to take shifts of 3 minutes because you'll pass out.
That's why basketball to me is the best game, because all the courts are the same dimensions. You have to play both ends of the floor. It's the most fair game, honestly.
There's nowhere to hide either. I tell my
Exactly.
players all the time, I go, look, man, you could sit in right field all day. I said, you can play volleyball and never have physical contact, but if you're going to get on the basketball court, you're going to get hit and you're going to have to hit.
Yep.
And, you got to run the whole way. It's not like soccer or lacrosse where I can't go in the zone. I got to go both ends of the floor.
Don Nelson passed away the other day. And you know what? His basketball life, I mean, it's certainly an all-timer. There's no question. He won won 5 championships with the Boston Celtics as a player. His jersey number's retired by them. He played 14 seasons, and then he coached 31 seasons. He has over 1,300 wins. He's second all-time on the all-time wins list. I think people
first when he retired.
I think most people, when you think of all-time NBA coaches, people are thinking of Pat Riley and then thinking of Phil Jackson. But Coach Nelson to be number 2 all-time, and one of the best personalities too, by the way. Sound bites are incredible by him.
Yes, he's a 3-time NBA Coach of the Year, 1,300 wins, and people forget Dirk Nowitzki doesn't exist without Don Nelson.
Plus, this guy he drafted Steph Curry too, by the way. He was part of that team,
right? And Dirk Nowitzki wasn't originally a Maverick. So he made a move to get Dirk, and then he let seven-footers were not shooting threes at that time. Dirk Nowitzki's the first guy to do that. He made Steve Nash let Steve Nash be free with Dallas, and then Dallas makes a tragic mistake and lets him get away. He also engineered the biggest 1-8 upset of all time. That 07 upset is ridiculous. Blew a 2-0 lead, and he wins 42 games. He beats that Dallas team 4-2. That is the number one statistical difference 1 versus 8 upset. It's happened 6 times. A couple of them were fraudulent. D Rose blew out a leg in one of them. One of them was during a strike season. It was best of 5. The Sonics Nuggets one was really a good one. But the 1-8 upset with just the Knicks, like I said, over the Heat was okay. But the Warrior Maverick one was just incredible. 67 wins on a Mavericks team that blew a 2-0 lead in the finals the year before in 06 when Wade went nuts. But that team, people don't realize about Don Nelson, first guy to really play small ball. He also played, he's Mike D'Antoni before Mike D'Antoni. And he saw guys. He had those great Bucks teams in the 80s. He got Terry Cummings from the Clippers, one of those great Clipper deals where they give away a Hall of Famer. It goes to the Bucks, and those Bucks teams, they sweep the Celtics, finally beat the Celtics in 1983. And people forget, 79, 80, 81, 82, the Celtics and the Sixers are taking turns going to the finals. And the Bucks are the third team just sitting there, winning 50 games every year. Junior Bridgman, Sidney Moncrief, Marcus Johnson, probably the most underrated NBA player in history. Bob Lanier, 6'11" center out of St. Bonaventure with gigantic feet. These were good teams. Paul Pressey, one of the best defenders in the league. And then you go and you add Cummings to that group. And what happens is in 83, they don't have Cummings yet, but they sweep the Celtics. This is going to be the year. And then they lose a bunch of close games to the eventual champion Sixers, who only lost 1 game. It was to the Bucks. Don Nelson, very creative. He had in the 90s, he had that small ball team. He had Chris Mullin, Hardaway. He had guys like Purvis Short playing the 4, Marcelonis playing the 4. He went really small with like 4 guards almost, 3 guards and a forward out there in the court at the same time. Very creative, a first ballot Hall of Famer. And also, people want to talk about Halliburton's shot that bounced up. Don Nelson's in Game 7, 1969. That ball bounces about 10 feet straight in the air. It doesn't go near the backboard.
Yeah, it was talked about in the Celtics-Lakers rivalry documentary that he hit that big shot.
And people forget Don Nelson back then as a player, unbelievable player stats. I mean, he had years where he's averaging 8 rebounds and 14 points. He averaged double digits, I think 8 years in a row in the NBA. And he's doing it on a team where there's about there's 8 Hall of Famers on it. So he's doing it on a team where, he's got to share the points. So in the 69 team, he gets 11 points a game. He's getting 6 rebounds a game. Excellent coach. The Knicks were very impatient with him as a coach. Patrick Ewing didn't like the fact that the practices were not focused enough on defense. The Knicks, having no patience, sent him packing in the middle of the season, basically about 50 games in, 60, maybe 65 games in, which was just crazy. But they had no patience with him. I think he would have helped that Knick team because that Knick team back then had just come out of the Pat Riley jail offense days, and Don Nelson could coach offense. He probably was. What also happened was Patrick's numbers were a little bit down. New York fans don't remember this, but Anthony Mason was getting a little bit more of a point forward role because Anthony Mason, even though he couldn't shoot, was a great ball handler for his guys.
Yeah, he could pass.
He was an excellent passer. And Don Nelson started to take those opportunities away from Patrick and pushed him towards a little bit more of a group opportunist. And so we didn't get to find out. I think they were 45 and 34 when they cut him out. I mean, I don't know why you'd cut him out that early, 35 and 24, something like that. But Don Nelson's one of the best pro coaches of all time. Today they were arguing on NBA radio about who the best coaches of all time are. And one of the arguments I always make is that can you win more than one way? Because that's the great coach. So even though Pat Riley never won with the Knicks, he won 2 different ways. So that's the mark where Pat Riley was a great coach. Phil Jackson won the same way twice, but he did make the adjustment and threw the triangle offense into the low post. Then people go, well, it didn't work with the Knicks. Don't forget, he wasn't coaching the Knicks. He was the GM of the Knicks. Big difference. Did a crappy GM, but we don't know if he could have coached the Knicks that way. But he did move the triangle down when he got Shaq. Totally different. Whereas Will Perdue and Luke Longley and Bill Winnington were playing it at the elbow. All of a sudden, Shaq wasn't at the elbow. Shaq was moved down a little bit. Tex Winter moved him down. So Phil did show you that. Popovich has played kind of the same way. And, at the end of his career, he had some really rough relationships with guys like Kawhi Leonard. So there's so many guys in the discussion. I never saw a Red Auerbach coach, but obviously the numbers speak for themselves. But Don Nelson, definitely a top 10 NBA coach of all time. I know he never won a title. I'm trying to think. I don't even think he ever got to a finals.
I don't believe he did, no. Any of those teams I'm looking at there, he did not.
Sometimes it's circumstance. You run into those Sixer Celtics teams, which took turns. Like I said, from 80 to 85, they took turns going to the finals.
Plus his Warrior days coaching there. I mean, the West, especially in the 90s there, it was loaded. I mean, you had the Suns were great, the Rockets, the Spurs were good. I mean, the Sonics. I mean, you had just the teams were loaded in the Western Conference and the NBA during that time. But those run TMC teams that he had with Tim Hardaway and Mitch Richmond and Chris Mullins were very good.
Yeah, what happened with 07 when they went 42 and 40? The next year they went 48 and 34, and then all of a sudden the Warriors in 08 and 09 started to go the wrong way, and that's when he did his last coaching job in 2009, 2010. But again, just an amazing coach. Like I said, 3-time coach of the year. Was voted 15 top coaches in NBA history. Definitely is. There's so many guys. Chuck Daly's one of the greatest coaches.
Some really guys, too, that were really rough around the edges, like Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson, they just loved him. His former players really definitely admired him.
Nick Van Exel was talking about him today, and I'm sure Dirk somewhere feels a debt of gratitude because Dirk was allowed to play and become Dirk.
They all released statements on it. Even Steph Curry did. I mean, guys just totally were in love with this guy.
Well, because he would look at the whole and just see how you could play. He didn't you have to understand, when you were born, everything was 3 out, 2 in this league. Everything in basketball was 3 out, 2 in. And then all of a sudden a guy like him comes along and is like, well, I don't really have 2 in. I got 4 out and 1 in. What can I do with that? Well, he's the first guy to really go, you know what? I'm gonna try it that way. And Europe really took it to another level. Mike D'Antoni when he was in Italy, but all of a sudden he just saw it differently. He didn't try to put a square peg in a round hole. He saw that he had a square peg and he found a square to put it in. He didn't stick it in a round hole. So he would say to himself, well, this is what I have. What can I get out of this?
Those Mavericks teams that he had at center, he had Rafe LaFrentz, so he's doing a lot of pick and pop with Steve Nash and Dirk.
So you look at him and you say to yourself, those Maverick teams were so good, but his basketball understanding of how to get guys, he was very creative, playing small ball. Chris Mullin, Timmy Hardaway, Mitch Richmond, and Marcelonis and Purvis Short. I mean, those teams. I mean, good God. I mean, they ran into the Lakers that one year and lost in the they were 44-38, and I think the Lakers just beat the crap out of them in the playoffs the one year. But they were good. There's no horse shit around. They were very creative. They weren't your typical team. And Don Nelson, he's different. He was a different coach. He was very creative, and it's sad because only when this stuff happens do you talk about how good he is, which kind of sucks. As a former Iowa Hawkeye, so my buddy Sean is a former Hawkeye himself. So he's always into the Hawkeyes as far as what they do with their careers and stuff. But he was a great coach, and
he was great for the game too. The personality, like I said, I mean, he was. They had a reunion for the We Believe Warriors that beat that Mavericks team in the playoffs. And they asked him, they said, "What have you been doing the last 10 years, coach?" And he says, "I've been smoking a lot of pot."
Yeah, him and Willie Nelson like to party. I guess his body probably hurt. NBA players never walk good after they're playing. Especially
guys that are his height too. They struggle. Yeah.
This guy was a good player. I think he as an NBA player, I think he's all defense a couple of times. Well, known as a defensive guy back in the day. So, if you look at what he did, 5-time champ, like you said, Hall of Famer, but, just so much that he gave the game, 6'6", small forward back then, you could do that. You just hate to have to wait till a guy dies before that, but that's why he is in the Hall of Fame, which is great. Very creative though. And he'll be missed because he was so creative, and not enough people are creative today. So it's sad to see the lack of creativity we're seeing today. And that's why we talked about it this year. I really loved a lot of the guys in the playoffs picking up full and trying to take advantage of every little thing, because that's what he did. And so this year was defensively guys picking up and trying to take advantage of the lack of point guards like people did to Houston. JJ Redick did a good job with that. But I'm just happy to see guys taking advantage of situations this year. Last couple of years, the NBA coaching, I think, has picked up again. I think it got stale for a while. I think recently that we've seen some good things going on.
His Warriors teams, though, that he had, like the second generation where he had the We Believe guys in 2006 and 2007, I mean, on that team they were just so talented. You had guys like Baron Davis and Monte Ellis, Steven Jackson, Jason Richardson, Al Harrington.
Those teams were loaded.
Yeah, Troy Murphy. That was a fun team.
You know what? If you listen to those guys, though, none of them really have a straight up position.
No,
they're all like tweeners, and you get Baron Davis getting 2 steals a night. Well, that's a lot of freaking steals. Monte Ellis, who his career just fell apart, almost like probably because people just didn't like him. Steven Jackson is one of the most underrated players of all time. Jason Richardson is a freak of nature. I just still don't get how this guy didn't get more like pub. I mean, if you've seen Al Harrington, I mean, Dunleavy had his moments. I mean, they had Pietrus, like you said. Troy Murphy did some things. He had Barnes. I mean, these guys, this was a fun team. They had a Donald Foyle from Colgate. So, these were fun teams. They had DeJuan Wagner. Unfortunately, it never worked out for him. But these were fun teams. Oh, my goodness, he was a good player. I mean, so, wow, they had Anthony Roberson, too. I remember him, too. So this team was Monte Ellis. He came along, and they kicked him out once they got Steph. But, Monte Ellis could play. I mean, he was one of those guys that just got shafted, I thought.
He was extremely talented, Monte Ellis. I mean, he was a guy who he averaged 20 points for quite some time, actually, in the NBA.
Yeah, he was still good.
I mean, he had 12 seasons in the NBA, and for about 9 of them, he played at a really high level.
Yeah, he was tough, but he must have been a little bit creative and wacky, but he reminds me of the guy. Who was the guy on the Bucks that was so good, the lefty, but they kept screwing him out of stuff, too. He's from New York.
Brandon Jennings.
Yes, Brandon Jennings, another guy I felt like got shafted for some reason. I'm sure we don't know the story.
Injuries with him. I looked him up. Injuries is what happened with him.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those strange situations, but he's one of those guys that was really talented, but I guess he had some baggage, and people just ship you out after a while, and that's what's happened with what's his face there. As we watch the kid from Memphis, nobody wanted him. And they finally Trailblazers got him for basically nothing.
Oh, John Morant.
He got him for nothing. Have you ever seen a better player get
I know.
Get traded for less in my life? I haven't.
I know. Incredible. That might be a great deal though for them. That might.
Oh, it could be. If they get him and Lillard to share the rock, they might be all right. And then don't forget about the European kid in the hole. They'll be all right.
Yep.
You got Klingon in the hole. I mean, that team could be fun. Them in Utah, I can't wait.
Absolutely.
Gonna be a lot of fun.
But Don Nelson, a great basketball life, lived to 86. That certainly was a good life for
Got to
him.
coach his whole life and play. He's like never had a real job.
Great personality, though, and he'll be missed.
Oh, yeah. Smoking weed with Willie Nelson.
Live long and prosper. May the force be with you.
Peace.